18 days. His role so far, what has been established in the NIA's charge sheet, in the convictions that he has faced in the United States in a court of law there, is very clear. His role is that of facilitating the multiple recce tours undertaken by David Coleman Headley, who's also one of the main co-conspirators of the 26/11 attacks. Multiple times before the attacks happened on the 26th of November 2008, David Coleman Headley did recces of Mumbai as well as other towns and cities in India. In fact, Rana himself had visited Mumbai as well as other places in India just a few days before the attacks. But the politics over the extradition of Tahawwur Rana is in full swing. Some of our political netas seem to be batting suddenly for due legal process. Prithviraj Chavan, who's a former Maharashtra Chief Minister, says that Rana should be entitled to a fair trial. You have Kanhaiya Kumar, another Congress leader from Bihar, saying that this is a diversionary tactic from the pain of the tariffs. Is it time to call out both the operatives of terror, the conspirators of terror, and also, more importantly, the apologists of terror?
तहव्वुर राना का जो है एक्स्ट्राडिशन जो है हो रहा है, क्या डेविड हेडली के लिए भी हम ये वो करेंगे? कुछ उम्मीद है कि वो भी?
देखिए, मोदी सरकार का प्रयास है कि जिन लोगों ने भी भारत की जमीन, भारत का सम्मान और भारत के नागरिकों के साथ दुर्व्यवहार भी किया है, वो हमारे कानून के जद में लाना चाहिए। और मैं मानता हूं तहव्वुर राणा की यहां वापिस आना ये मोदी सरकार की कूटनीति का बहुत बड़ी सफलता है
जी।
तो क्योंकि जिनके समय में जब बम धमाके हुए वो तो ला नहीं पाए, हमारे संविधान के तहत उसको सजा होगी। ये देश के लिए बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है।
All right, so that's what the Home Minister Amit Shah said in the Rising Bharat Summit, that this is a huge success for the diplomatic efforts put in by the Modi government. This is after a long legal battle that Tahawwur Rana had multiple appeals in appellate courts in the US, went all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States, and then he finally got extradited as per orders of the Supreme Court. Now, who is Tahawwur Hussain Rana? He is a close associate of one of the main conspirators of the attacks, David Coleman Headley, who also happens to be of Pakistani origin. His original name was Daud Gilani. Headley is currently serving a sentence in the United States after being convicted by a US court of law. Rana was connected with Headley. They were childhood friends. They worked closely to unleash the dastardly 26/11 attacks. Headley himself confirmed that Tahawwur Rana had helped him in achieving his mission. Now, that confession of Headley is the strongest piece of evidence for the National Investigation Agency. Headley told investigators way back in 2016 that he received the Lashkar's instructions to conduct surveillance and recces in India when he informed Tahawwur Rana about the assignment. Rana then directed his staff to prepare adequate documents and help David Headley obtain a multiple entry visa for India. The result was that Headley, despite being of Pakistani origin, travelled freely to India at least a dozen times before the 26/11 attacks happened. Tahawwur Rana allowed Headley to use his business called the First World Immigration Services as some kind of a cover for carrying out his multiple trips to India. Headley used that as a cover also for active reconnaissance in Mumbai ahead of the 26/11 attacks. Headley even opened a Mumbai office of Tahawwur Rana's firm, the First World Immigration Services, which helped him scout locations, also record GPS coordinates of the intended sites, which were all then subsequently passed on to the top operatives of the lashkar-e-taiba. Now, Tahawwur Rana is being held in a high-security lockup at the NIA headquarters in central Delhi. It is monitored by CCTV cameras. It has round-the-clock surveillance in the form of guards. His interrogation will happen over the next 18 days, and that is going to be significant for the National Investigation Agency. In fact, Rana could confirm David Coleman Headley's direct links with the ISI and with the Pakistani army. The NIA will also interrogate Tahawwur Rana about emails that were exchanged between Headley and two Pakistani army officials. He could also give details of the locations other than Mumbai that Headley had gone to, scouted, was part of his recce, and then passed on that information to his Pakistani handlers. He could also offer key information about the nexus between the Pakistani deep state and terror groups like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed, which flourish on Pakistani soil. Investigators will also be hoping to seek details on who was funding Tahawwur Rana, his connections to various sleeper cells of the lashkar-e-taiba, and the identities of his various business associates. Authorities are also looking into whom he may have funded in India and the individuals who assisted David Headley, one of the prime conspirators of the 26/11 attacks. He visited India on a number of occasions in the run-up to and after the worst terror attacks to have happened on Indian soil. But the politics around the extradition of Tahawwur Rana is front and center today. The opposition here in India seems to see this as a routine and a PR stunt by the Modi government. Let's listen in to some reactions from opposition political parties.
कमाल है, लेकिन नहीं अमित शाह कह रहे हैं, अमित शाह को लाज लगता है? अमित शाह को लाज नहीं लगता है ना? थोड़ा सा भी लाज है उस आदमी को? मुद्दा दिन भर भटकाते रहना, कभी इधर कभी उधर, कभी वक्फ बोर्ड तो कभी कुछ तो कभी कुछ। एक चीज, एक डिलीवरी बताइए जो एनडीए सरकार ने किया हो, जिस पे जो है उसको लगातार इस देश के लोगों ने वोट दिया। क्या महंगाई कम हो गई है? आसमान छू रही है महंगाई।
आपने ये तहव्वुर राना जो है उसको, उसके ऊपर मुकदमा चलाकर उसको फांसी पर लटकाने के लिए यहाँ लाया है या सिर्फ क्रेडिट लेने के लिए लाया है? हमें पूरा भरोसा है ये राजनीति कर रहे हैं और बिहार चुनाव से पहले राणा को फांसी पर लटका देगी और पूरे देश में डंका पिटाएंगे, देखो राणा को हमने फांसी दी।
All right, I want to open this up to our full panel. Joining us on Brass Tacks tonight, Tom Vadakan is spokesperson of the BJP, Sujata Paul, spokesperson of the Congress Party, Lieutenant General retired KJ Singh is former General Officer commanding of the Western Command of the Indian Army, and Kamar Chima, Pakistani defense analyst, is also joining us. I want to start with the political spokesperson. Sujata Paul, you heard from a host of opposition leaders. It ranges from some people like Mr. Prithviraj Chavan, former Chief Minister of Maharashtra, saying that all legal help should be provided to Tahawwur Rana and that he's entitled to a fair trial. You heard from Kanhaiya Kumar, the leader of Bihar, the Congress leader of Bihar, saying that this is an attempt to try and divert the focus from the government's failures. Amrinder Raja Waring, who is your Punjab State Unit president, says this is not a great feat. Stop chest thumping. Why are we giving excuses for terror operatives? Forget about being accused. He was convicted on 2 out of 3 counts in the United States, was spending time for that conviction in a US prison, convicted by a court of law, and now he's been brought back after a long and arduous legal struggle, a diplomatic win for the Modi government. Why is some kind of due process and at least justification of due process being meted out to him after he was responsible for one of the worst terror attacks on Indian soil, which killed 166 people?
Good evening, and good evening to everybody. But isn't it amazing how you're giving bites, showing bites of various people, but not talking about what Mr. P. Chidambaram said in his press conference today? And let me make it very clear that the Congress party is extremely glad that Tahawwur Rana has been extradited back to India, because 26/11 happened in 2008. And today, when we see him on our soil, we realize that yes, the foreign policy of India was strong and we kept it strong. And that is why this entire development has happened as a result of the diplomatic pressure that we kept up, the legal pressure, the intelligence inputs that we had, and all credit and all marks to our diplomats, our leaders during the UPA time, and the agencies, because the NIA registered a case against these very people in 2009. And at that time, we also sent a team of 3 people from the NIA to interrogate David Headley. So it is very clear that we have been waiting for this day for a very, very long time. And
but
it is
ma'am,
very
the fact of the matter is that the
extradition
extradition legal proceedings began in right earnest only post 2020. We heard Amit Shah at the Rising Bharat Summit of News 18 Network a couple of days ago, and he said, the people who were in power when the attacks happened, they couldn't bring him back. Now we have brought him back. At least acknowledge that much.
Zaka, please. Let's not demean those who have really worked hard for this. And when I talk about those who have worked hard for it, I have spoken about the NIA, but let me remind you that in November 2009, the Canadian Foreign Minister had confirmed that they were collaborating with our agencies. We had, when Rana was arrested in 2009 by FBI for the Copenhagen terror plot, and in January 2011, when he was convicted, it was because of all the evidences that we had supplied to them. And we were very upset, and we made it very clear to the US government on his acquittal on charges of the Mumbai attacks, because he was given a sentence of 14 years for his material support that he provided to Headley and others.
No, the conviction was not on the basis of the charges brought forth by India or for his alleged role in 26/11. It was for a different terror attack. But be that as it may,
Exactly.
let me go to Tom Wadakan. No, 1 second, ma'am, 1 second, please, come on. The show is opened. You're the only one who's speaking. Come on, be a little courteous. There are other panelists. They also need to speak. Please, come on. Fair opportunity for everyone. Tom Wadakan. The point is that you cannot discount the fact that the NIA registered a case against Rana way back in 2009. NIA teams went to the US on multiple occasions after Headley got arrested. In fact, the confession that Headley gave to the US courts, which was the singular reason why Rana is today been extradited and will now face law in India, that confession happened when the UPA was in power.
See, the fact.
No, 1 sec. Let Tom respond. Ma'am, please let Tom respond.
Zaka, let us give full credit to our Prime Minister and his foreign policy. Let us give full credit to Amit Shah ji and his team for what has happened. This is a historic occasion. Congress wants to take credit for everything under the sun. Now look at the narrative that they are talking about. Here's a spokesman who says Chidambaram said this, and Chidambaram, the fainting former minister, suddenly started fainting on whatever he is saying and whatever. Be what it may. Sickness was something we sympathize with, but there's too much of coincidence. That be so. Prithviraj Chauhan, the former Chief Minister of Maharashtra, praised that justice is done to him. Zaka, he's a Chief Minister. Justice is done in India. Whether it was the other plotter, the activist who was hung, a due process went through. Does he have to remind the justice system of India? The reality is there's something wrong somewhere. Zaka, do you recall the delay of NSG coming into action? 166 lives lost. And why? There was no movement. What was the Home Minister doing except changing his clothes? Everybody knows about it. Every hour he would come and give a bite and talk about, they were there. And there were certain outside agencies reporting from the location what kind of signals they send out, telling the public or telling public across the border that yes, I got a call from the 19th floor. Zaka, you remember all that. I mean, we can't forget all these incidents. We need to know who's working outside, who's working inside, and who's giving this cover-up operation. Okay. This is a country that needs evidence of what happened on that day. And we will spare no one. Zaka, let it be 66 lives is not something that we will ignore. This government will be after every individual involved in it.
Kamar Chima, this is a man who was practicing for 20 years in the Pakistan Army Medical Corps. He was born in Pakistan. His early years were in Pakistan. Of course, in the late 80s, early 90s, he migrated to Canada. And yesterday, when the Pakistan Foreign Office spokesperson was asked about Rana, he completely denied any Pakistani connection to this man. I mean, the point is that somebody who served in the Pakistan Army Medical Corps as a doctor, how can you disassociate him from the armed services of Pakistan, from the armed forces of Pakistan?
Since the person did not renew his ID cards for the last 2 decades, so how can we associate with him? So the person who was a Pakistani, he left Pakistan, became a Canadian citizen, did not renew his ID card for 2 decades. So we have no connection with him.
But to say that he's not of Pakistani origin, of somebody who served as an army doctor in the Pakistan Medical Corps.
Sir, this is not a question. The question is that the person didn't come Pakistan or his family members in Pakistan for the last 20 years from the 1995. This is the first point. The second point is, what about why you ignore the role of Indian intelligence agencies who fail to understand who these people are? David Hadley or Rana, where is your fault? Have you pointed out to those people who couldn't recognize these people, who couldn't recognize the people who were making these fake documents? Your embassy staff,
Mr. Chima, you know, the fact is that it was Rana. One second, forget about what India is saying. I want to quote from the US Justice Department's charge sheet against Rana, which led to his conviction, that Rana was the one who facilitated Headley to travel to India on multiple occasions using a multiple entry visa. Rana gave Headley the cover of his own business, First World Immigration Services, to be opening an office in Mumbai, which can be used as a cover for his recce operations. Rana, in fact, made Headley the manager of his Mumbai office. It was Rana who informed David Coleman Headley about the plans of the lashkar-e-taiba for 2611. This is not India saying this. This is the US Justice Department charge sheet against Tahawwur Rana, which led to his conviction in the United States. And you still say, oh, he has no connection to Pakistan. He has nothing to do with 2611.
I was just listening to Indian officials few days ago, where they were saying that we will not let investment to come from any country from where we don't want, or from the people we don't want. So ask your agencies, ask your people how they were going to invest in India, how they were going to open offices in India. Where is your setup? The question is, you are a country of 140 million and you keep pointing fingers at others. Where is your setup? The question, who is to answer in India? The Indian should answer.
Here is a man who was a co-conspirator who facilitated the attacks that killed 166 people. Not just Indians, foreigners as well. And General KJ is saying, please respond to Mr. Chima. He is saying, oh, how were they let in so many times? Where are your systems? Where are your checks and balances? He completely washes his hands off Mr. Tahawwur Rana's 20 years of army records as a serving doctor in the Pakistan Medical Corps, the Army Medical Corps. General Singh.
Zakat Jahan. See, the problem is he is a deserter from the Pakistan Army. He deserted from there, went to Canada, and he's had a kind of relationship with David Coleman Headley, which can't be denied. They were studying in the same school. The connections go far, deep. And see, I am happy as a professional that our professional agencies, intelligence, investigative, diplomatic, have put in that pressure and got him back. We should close the loop, because every investigation in such a case, we have to close the loop. We have to conclusively establish who has funded this mission. See, now I feel sorry for my friend, Mr. Chima.
Yeah.
This is a classic chilling message to all these operatives, that the people who run you will disown you. See, you'll do so much for them. You'll set up an office, and this man, Tahawwur Rana, he didn't live like a very luxurious life. He gave it to this cause, which is misguided cause. But see how he's been disowned by his own country. The army where he served, they don't want to even own up to him.
Yeah.
Now, we have to close the loop. And more worrying for us, like what Mr. Rana is saying, is there may be some collaborators with it. So we must try and find out everything. People who internally funded it, people who internally facilitated it.
Let me
And
ask
bring it-
Tom Walakan.
Logical.
You know, Mr. Cheema says that Rana had nothing to do with Pakistan. Last 20 years, he's not renewed his documents. These are intercepted calls that Tahawwur Rana made to David Colburn Headley post 26/11, where he told, quote, Rana tells Headley, quote, Indians deserved it. Rana praised the 9 terrorists who were killed in the 26/11 attacks. Rana, in fact, demanded the gallantry award, the top gallantry award for these attackers, the top gallantry award of Pakistan for these attackers. And Tom, Mr. Cheema would have all of us believe that Rana has nothing to do with Pakistan.
Zaka, it's very interesting. On national television, he comes and says he did not renew his identity card. That means there was an identity card. There was a fact that he was a doctor there. I mean, he's admitting it is no open admission. He says that he did not renew. If I did not renew my identity card, doesn't mean that I did not belong to the ISI or the army, to the Pakistani army. That's a giveaway. That's a total giveaway because it's clear that the link was there. And now when they want to disown him, they say, well, he did not renew his identity card, and so he doesn't belong to us. He's a Canadian, so be it.
So Cheema Saab, why was he then asking for top gallantry award for these terrorists? Why was he praising the 9 terrorists who died in 26/11? Why did he tell Headley the Indians deserved it? Why? Why, if he has no Pakistani connection, was he asking for the highest award for these slain terrorists?
He is part of the team.
Well, let me tell you.
Terrorism across the subcontinent. And he's part of the Pakistani team.
Mr. Cheema.
Okay.
Yeah. My point here is when he was in jail in the United States, he never asked for legal assistance from Pakistan. He asked legal assistance from the Canadian authorities. That is one thing. So
because legal counsel can only be given to citizens of a country. You know this, surely.
You are accepting my point. He's not a Pakistani citizen anymore because.
But that does not make his Pakistani connections vanish into thin air, Mr. Cheema.
The question is not people can.
You can't deny the fact that he was born in Pakistan. You can't deny the fact that he was an army doctor in your medical corps in the Pakistani army. You can't just, burn away all those records.
What I'm advocating here is he got the legal assistance from Canada, and I want to tell you, General Saab, आपका जासूस पाकिस्तान की जेलों में सड़ रहा है, कोई बंदा उसको लेने नहीं आया. सो हम जो है, हमें पता है हमारे बंदे कहां क्या काम कर रहे हैं. आपको पता है आपके बंदे पाकिस्तान में गल सड़ रहे हैं, but nobody came to get in. Up 10, you went to Qatar, got your 10 naval intelligence people who got death sentence, but didn't get a जासूस जो पाकिस्तान में बैठा हुआ है. So
because India has never said that he was an espionage agent, because India has never said that he was some kind of a spy. But anyway, I don't want to digress. I want to go back to Sujata Paul. Sujata Paul,
Yes.
This is an issue where there should be a national consensus in this country. Unfortunately, unlike what we saw in 2019 in Balakot or in 2017 in Uri, after 2008, the then UPA government deterred to take decisive military action, even though the then Air Chief had said that we have the capability to go across the line of control and hit Pakistan. And General Singh is here. He will testify to the same. Similarly, the 26/11 terrorist, Kasab, he was kept on the death row, and the death sentence was not executed for 4 years, despite a court of law sentencing him to death. The parliament attack convict Afzal Guru, his hanging was delayed despite multiple rejections of mercy pleas. And then you had, certain justifications, people like Mr. Digvijay Singh, Mr. Shinde, the former Home Minister, saying, there is saffron terror, there is Hindu terror, etc. Why do we not have a consensus between our two main political parties in this country that terror is terror and that Pakistan orchestrated, Pakistan originated terror has to be called out?
Zaka, it's only now that I'm able to hear clearly, so kindly allow me time. The fact is that I agree to a lot of things that Mr. Varakan has said today. And the fact is that when it comes to national issues, we stand with our government. And what I was trying to say in the beginning was that this has taken 1.5 decades of continued legal pressure, diplomatic pressure, and our agencies working day and night to ensure that Tahawwur Rana is extradited to India. So let us respect them and let us understand that what has happened today is a result of what happened at the beginning, because collection of evidence had to happen then. The calls that were intercepted happened at that time. So it is only a matter of coincidence that the present government is going to get credit for what they're saying. But it's not credit, it's just a culmination of the entire process. And this is what the foreign policy of India is. And when you say that there were certain issues in the case of Ajmal Kasab, make no mistake, he was hung. Afzal Guru was hung. So, I mean, they were hanged. So, if they were hanged, then what does it mean? It clearly means that the due process was followed. And of course, there were questions as to why it was being delayed. But nobody in the world can question us on not following the legal
due
process.
process needs to be followed. No one is saying that, you should hang these people basis a kangaroo court. Yes, the due process must be followed in the case of Mr. Rana as well as it was followed in the case of Kasab. Ma'am, I'm completely out of time. But the point is a former chief minister of the state where this attack happened should not be coming out and seemingly offering some kind of a blasé statement as though this is just another legal trial. It's not. It is the legal trial which will bring to justice one of the co-conspirators of the worst terror attack on Indian soil, and we shouldn't come across as showing any kind of benign mercy on such an individual. Anyway, I want to move on now. Coming up next is the conversation that I had with External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar at the Rising Bharat Summit 2025, brought to you by the News 18 Network. Dr. Jaishankar, thank you very much for joining us at the Rising Bharat Summit. You've come here every time we've had a Rising Bharat Summit, so this is your third edition here. But I want to start off with something significant which some of our audiences may also be interested in knowing. It is the number 2140. Does that hold any special significance for you? I shall enlighten our audience and maybe even enlighten you. That's the number of days that...
This sounds like one of Elon Musk's tweets.
That's the number of days he's been External Affairs Minister. He's the longest serving External Affairs Minister of India since Nehru. So we can have a round of applause for that. And what a time to be in charge of India's foreign policy. You look back at the last 5 years and 10 months now, it's going to be almost 6 years. What do you think has been Indian foreign policy's singular achievement in these last 6 years? One thing if you were to name, with the mic, sir.
I would say, this is Bharat rising. So how do you manage the process of rise under extremely turbulent conditions? Because managing a process of rise is tough enough, but countries normally hope that you get a very conducive environment. We've got as tough an environment as anybody could not hope for. Anybody could actually
imagine.
And I think getting through that. I mean, just look at these last 6 years from a foreign policy perspective. I mean, you've had Ukraine, you've had the Middle East, you've had the whole Indo-Pacific turbulence, you had Afghanistan, you've had Myanmar, you've had COVID, you've had meltdown of various kinds, political changes in our neighbors. Actually the stresses and it's not just change. There have been big events, there have been fractures, there have been stresses, there have been surprises. So it's been as turbulent as it could have been.
I do want to, so since you said it's been challenging circumstances, it's beyond what anyone could have imagined, let's address the elephant in the room, and that is the tariffs that have kicked in today. That's what our business editors have been telling us. The reciprocal tariffs have kicked in today. And first of all, I'd like to understand from you, what is your assessment, what is your reading of, what is going to be the impact of these reciprocal tariffs on India? What is India's strategy to try and deal with the fallout of it? If you could sort of, elucidate what your views are.
I don't think it's possible to speak about what would be the impact because we don't know. What is our strategy? I think that's pretty clear. We decided that we will engage the Trump administration early on this set of issues. We were very open with them, very constructive with them, as they were with us. What we agreed to do was to try to negotiate a bilateral trade agreement by fall of this year. To the best of my knowledge, and I could be corrected here, I think we are the only country after President Trump has assumed presidency the second time, which has actually reached such an understanding in principle. So I don't know, every country, because every country is tariffed, okay? So every country in the world today is fashioning its own strategy of dealing with the United States. In our case, our strategy has a goal, and the goal is to see whether it's possible to actually deal with this situation by concluding a bilateral trade agreement. And I should add that in an interesting way, this has long been our objective. The present situation may have created the circumstances for such a serious conversation. But if you look at President Trump's first term, we were actually negotiating a trade deal which could not fructify. And if one looks even at Biden's administration, we discussed trade possibilities and we ended up with the IPEF initiative. They were very averse to doing a bilateral agreement. So from the Indian perspective, actually doing, working out something bilaterally with the United States is not at all a sort of a negative or a sort of unwanted situation. On the contrary, it is something which has long been our objective.
But tell me, Dr. Jaishankar, as you take a moment to drink water, you've been part of many bilateral negotiations, trade negotiations in the past. These things take time. You said we're hopeful that the BTA will be wrapped up by the fall. Two things. What happens if it doesn't and if it takes longer than that? And two, how confident are you that you can actually wrap it up by the fall?
Well, I've always wondered why it takes such a long time. Frankly, I've never figured it out.
You tell us.
No, I've never figured it out because, I see, we have trade negotiations which have been going on for decades. And the negotiators meet, I think, every 6 months or 3 months or 4 months. And I wonder why. I mean, if I were doing a negotiation, I'd be at it till I got the job done. And I think today, when I look back at the last, since the Prime Minister's visit, I'd say mid-Feb, so we're about 6 weeks since then, we've actually had multiple rounds in this period. I think we've had more periods, discussions with the Americans in the last 6 weeks than I suspect we've had with the Europeans in the last 2 years.
Wow. More discussions with the US in the last 6 weeks than what you've had with Europe in 2 years. But you're also sort of accelerating the FTA talks with EU, with UK and so on. Do you think that, this is a 35,000 feet view question, do you reckon that Mr. Trump, by doing what he's doing, is forcing other countries to, start trading more with each other and start, processing these FTAs in a quicker fashion?
Look, you are attributing everything in a way to President Trump. Mm-hmm. I understand why. But I want you to look at it for a moment from an Indian perspective.
Sure.
Okay? Since the beginning of reform, 1990s, in 30 years, what are your FTA agreements? They're largely to the economies east of India, with the ASEAN, with ASEAN members, with Japan, with Korea, Australia, which is not the same. Now, where are actually your many of these are competitive economies.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, with most of these countries, we are running today trade deficits. Now, where is the natural growth potential for our exports? It's to the countries west of us. You know, it's in the Gulf, it's in Europe, it's in the UK, it's in the United States, possibly in Latin America. And actually those are the agreements which have lagged behind. So it's been our endeavor, I can tell you. I mean, from 2014, for example, we've been pressing the Europeans saying, look, can we re-engage, because we had stopped engaging. Then after Brexit, we responded very quickly to the UK's interest in reaching an agreement. And, you know, we see an opportunity, I mean, in the current situation vis-a-vis the United States. These are, to me, really the priorities which we should be doing. We should be doing it in our own interest, not because some other president of another country says, he's created a situation.
I want to talk a little bit about Europe, because you had sort of become a bit of a lightning rod for them about talking about oil imports from Russia, saying how can you import from a country that's gone into war and invaded and so on. And you've laid out very articulately for India and for the rest of the world what India's position is. Now the same Europeans are scampering for an FTA with India. You know, do you see a double standard there? Or
No. I think you're being unfair to Europe. Yes, you're being unfair to Europe. I think the Europeans were serious about an FTA earlier. It's just we haven't seen that kind of urgency. You know, maybe their way of working is different. So I can't expect everybody to be the same. So they take, typically they have taken much longer periods between interacting with each other. My point is that, Europe today, I think, realizes the importance of deeper ties with India and the relevance of the FTA for that purpose. We had in the end of February 21 European commissioners led by President von der Leyen visiting India, very unique happening. Not just for India, even for them. They don't normally do that. I think there's a very serious message coming out of Europe saying we want to move forward on this. We welcome it, we reciprocate it, and I'm pretty confident that just as we are seeing a very intense engagement with the United States, and by the way with the UK as well, I expect the pace to pick up with Europe. We have an aspirational goal. We'd like to close out the FTA this year. But, when we get there, we'll see.
I want to talk about the neighborhood. Last time you were here at the summit, the big concern, the big talking point was the relationship with China, and you had said that the relationship is not normal. And, we need to deal with the situation at the border for the relationship to become normal. Now, there's been a disengagement process. The Prime Minister has met with the Chinese President. You've met with your counterpart, I think, on a couple of occasions since then. How would you describe the state of the relationship with China? How far away from normal is it?
Well, it's obviously better than the last time I was here. Sure. I think the disengagement, particularly the Depsang-Temchok, was important. We are now addressing, to some extent, issues on the border because there's been a force build-up over a period of years. But there were many other things which also happened during this period. Some of it was a collateral of the situation. Some of it was actually a carryover from the COVID era. For example, our flights, direct flights, stopped during COVID. They were not resumed. The Kailash Mansarovar Yatra stopped during COVID. It did not again resume. So I think there is work to be done. We are at it. We are, sort of trying to see whether a lot of this post-COVID and, parallel to the border tension, the combination of these issues, how much we can progress on this. We are looking at it because at the end of the day, we have always maintained that the situation which we saw between 2020 and 2024 was not in the interest of either country. It was not in the interest of our relationship. And I think there is a recognition of that now.
So it's on the road to being normal again?
Well, I think we are moving in a positive direction. The problem with your profession is you want instantaneous transformation. The challenge of my profession is it's a very arduous and painstaking one.
I'm glad that we are sticking to each other's respective professions. But, because there's so much talk around trade and because President Trump has made that the point of conversation, you referred to, we have trade imbalances with a lot of countries to the east, right? Is this, you reckon, an opportunity, again, academically speaking, an opportunity for India to look at some of those trade relationships and say that, these imbalances cannot sustain? Just like America is saying that, an imbalanced trade relationship is not working for them.
Well, we've had concerns. We have articulated those concerns. This is not my direct remit, but I have a visibility into it, and we work as a team within the government. I think one of the issues for us, for example, has been the review of the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement, ITIGA, which we believe has been unnecessarily prolonged. I think it's important for all countries today to realize that the nature of the global discourse on trade is changing. There are new parameters, there are new metrics of judgment. I think countries will do what they need to do to protect their businesses, to protect their labor, to protect their societies. We cannot be an exception to it. So I think we have concerns with many of the countries east of us, countries with whom we have FTA arrangements, and also countries with whom we don't.
Prime Minister was recently at the BIMSTEC summit. You were there with him. It's the first time that he met with the new interim leader of Bangladesh, Professor Yunus. There's been a lot of concerns here in India about some of the statements that have been made by the leadership there, some of the goings-on the ground, whether it's attacks on minorities, so on and so forth. From within whatever you can divulge in the public domain, what did the Prime Minister tell Professor Yunus, particularly on this comment about India's northeast being landlocked and, Bangladesh being the gateway to the ocean, and also on the attacks on minorities, on both those issues?
No, look, I think the main messages from our side, which came out at the meeting, one, that our relationship with Bangladesh, for historical reasons, is a very unique relationship. It's a very fundamentally a people-to-people connect. Much more so, perhaps, than any other relationship than I can think of. And that's something we need to recognize. So, it's not necessarily one of the government of the day. Secondly, we have concerns. We have concerns about the rhetoric which is coming out of people in Bangladesh. We have concerns about radicalizing tendencies we see. We have concerns about the attacks on minorities. And I think we were very, open about sharing those concerns. Again, as a country which, no country wishes Bangladesh well more than us. That's in our, I would say almost in our DNA, if you can say that. And as a well-wisher, as a friend, I think we hope that, they make go the right way and do the right things. And as a country with a, which has a democratic tradition, democracies require elections. That's how mandates are given and mandates are renewed. So, we hope that they go down that path.
From well-wishers to not-so-well-wishers, I want to talk about Pakistan. Two questions. One, because this news just came this morning, that Tahawwur Rana, who's the convict in the 26/11 attacks, is likely to be extradited perhaps in the next 24 to 48 hours. So I want your comment on that. And second, this whole thing, Baluchistan seems to be in a bit of a flux, and Pakistan has resorted to its old, copybook that, India is doing this, so on and so forth. So on both those issues, I would like your
there's nothing really new that I can say on the Tahawwur Rana issue. I mean, obviously, we welcome the decision of the American legal process. On the Baluchistan issue, look, I don't want to say anything. I mean, there is clearly a very disturbed situation there. People are suffering there. And if I say something, there'll be finger pointing. So I don't want to say it.
But just on the principle that, every time India says there is terrorism emanating from Pakistan targeting India, you're met with a stone wall.
Look, Zaka, I don't have to say it. It's visible. Even they say it. But it's not like I'm making an accusation and everybody in Pakistan is there saying, no, this is completely untrue. You have people in Pakistan who openly declare that they are doing terrorist activities in India. So this is not an argument. I mean, this is not a hypothesis. This is something they proudly claim. So I think, we've always maintained, not just us, I mean, all sensible people have maintained that if you start a terrorism industry, you will be consumed by it. And that is exactly what we are seeing today in Pakistan.
So at a time when, there's an acceleration for regional partnerships and so on, you don't see any future for SAARC, given if Pakistan does not change its tack and does not use or employ terror as an instrument of state policy?
Well, let me pose that question to you. I mean, would you be okay if we were nice to each other in the morning and I come and attack your house at night?
Certainly not.
I mean, would you live with it?
Certainly not.
Then why would you even ask me that question?
No, just in the context of SAARC. Let me also come to last few questions. The relationship with Canada. We've had a pretty, certain issues that plague the relationship in the last couple of years. There's going to be an election there soon in the next few weeks. Are you considering reinstating the Indian High Commissioner in Ottawa? Is there anything moving in that direction post the election?
Look, again, I'm very cautious in anything I would say publicly about Canada. They're heading for elections. I don't want a remark become an issue out there in their politics. For us, the direction in which ties have gone is something which, again, we believe has not served the interests of Canada. The kind of latitude that was given to people espousing extremism, secessionism, violence, if you import such people and encourage such people, it's going to have consequences in your own landscape. And, what we were saying, in a way, the cautions we were uttering inside the room, unfortunately played out outside the room as well. So we would like certainly to see, after all, it's a big country, Commonwealth country with whom we've had, generally good relations. Yes, things, again, for almost exactly the same reasons had happened in the 80s. So to the extent that, we see them recognizing the problem and, not giving that kind of political space to such forces, if we would then naturally take that into account. I mean, I have no gain by having bad relations with Canada. I would like them, actually, I would like both sides to mend the relationship. But I would also like people to recognize that there's a real problem out there. And the problem is, the kind of space given to these forces.
One final question. We're anticipating President Putin of Russia to visit India at some point this year. In this new emerging global order where, President Trump wants to end the war, he's talking directly to both Russia and Ukraine, how does India figure in this emerging matrix? Because India is one of the few countries, yesterday the Prime Minister was here, India is one of the few countries that can speak to both Russia and Ukraine and has good relations with both.
You know, we've had a very, I would say, both a sensible position and a helpful position. Sensible in terms of very early on, we took the view publicly that this conflict cannot be resolved on the battlefield, that it was necessary for a return to dialogue and diplomacy, that it was important for the parties concerned to talk to each other, because that was not happening. And there was actually a view at that time that everybody else would gather together and somehow produce a solution, and the other party, in this case Russia, would be confronted with that as a choice. Now, much of what we held in 2022, 23, 24 has actually come to pass. And there's no vindication in it. I mean, in fact, if anything, there is regret that, so many lives have been lost, so much time has gone, so much damage has been done, not only to the countries, but to the global society and to the international economy. But, okay, now there is a greater understanding that we need, appreciation that we need to they need to engage each other. So, to the extent we can motivate that, foster that, encourage that, we would do that. And again, I maintain that we've always, what we said in Moscow was not different than what we said in Kiev and what we said in third places. And we've tried to, have conversations here, take those there with the approval of each party. And so that's one part of what we've tried to do. The other is, there have been different dimensions of this conflict which have popped up from time to time. Different countries have weighed in, and I think it's such a really serious issue. It's natural. It's not a single or a small number of countries. We approve of all of that. I think anything which any country can do or any group of countries can do to help, we welcome that. We've tried to do a few things ourselves. We weighed in with other people. It could be some of the nuclear-related issues, or it could be grain corridor, or whatever it is. But the objective is to help. The objective is not to put yourself ahead. I mean, we're not, actively searching for a role. But if, either of the parties or any other country comes and says, look, can you help out on this? We'd be open to doing it.
All right, and I'll wrap up. I know you like cricket a lot. So these 2,140 days as the longest serving foreign minister post-Nehru, you look at it as a test match, as a T20, as a one-dayer, or this is your career with an asterisk, not out. S. Jaishankar batting at 2-1-4-0, not out.
No, I think on this one, look, it's been, again, it's been a very interesting heading to 6 years as foreign minister, but I treat it to some degree as a continuum of what I was doing earlier. In a way, I think the next few years will be extraordinarily challenging. It'll be challenging for the world. It'll be challenging for us as a country, precisely because we have to keep rising through all this clutter, through all these tensions. And to be associated with that process, to be given responsibility of that process, I think is a great honor, it's a great responsibility, and I'm very, very, grateful for it.
We have the best batsman batting at not out on that. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister of India.
Europe today, I think, realizes the importance of deeper ties with India and the relevance of the FTA for that purpose.
The United States is trying to reset the rules of the game. In some sense, it's a good omen for India because it opens up huge opportunity.
You can buy oil from anywhere. If your policies are sound, what you turn around and say, I will issue a tender at the point of importation, जिसके बाद माल है आके supply कर जाए. That is why we are successful.
श्रीनगर को और जम्मू को जोड़ने का, ये रेल से जोड़ने का, ये एक बहुत बड़ा सपना है देश का. और इस सपने को प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने अपनी बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग संकल्प के साथ, दिस इज अ प्रोजेक्ट विच रिक्वायर्ड ट्रेमेंडस टेनेसिटी, ट्रेमेंडस डिजाइन वर्क, lots and lots of engineering inputs were there.
हम जो अभी टोल देना पड़ता है एक बार, तो हम लोग उस सिस्टम को ही पूरा अध्ययन करके हम उसको बदल रहे हैं.
तो टोल बढ़ेगा, कम हो जाएगा?
100% कम.
100% कम, जीरो हो जाएगा?
नहीं.
The United States is still imposing tariffs on China, and China is firmly opposed to such bullying. China will absolutely not accept pressure, threats and blackmail. That is not the right way to deal with China. If the US side really wants to talk, it should show an attitude of equality, respect and reciprocity. If the United States ignores the interests of the two countries and the international community and insists on fighting a tariff war and a trade war, China will certainly accompany it to the end.
We've seen the global markets going through quite a seesaw over Trump's tariff policies, and in particular policies or uncertainty in policies in relation to China. And now again, at a cabinet meeting at the White House on Thursday, we saw clearly contradictory statements emerge on China, hardly likely to be calming for the markets or bring clarity on what the US policy is. Trump, on the one hand, said a deal with China can be worked out.
And I'm sure that we'll be able to get along very well. I have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries.
And within minutes, he was saying this.
What they've done to our country, they've destroyed our economic base to a large extent. The good news is we're very vibrant and we're going to get it back fast. We already have. Look, we're making $2 billion a day now.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio put it more sharply.
One of the most important things I believe you'll achieve in your presidency is reordering the world in a proper way. For 31 years, more than 31 years now, multiple administrations have allowed